Hey everybody, Kent Marts here from Explore Scientific with the 68th episode of How Do You Know with my good friend, Dr. Daniel Barth. How are you, sir?
Hey, it's a pleasure.
How are you getting ready for the holidays?
Oh, yes, we are.
Now, you've got finals coming up, what, next week?
Next week.
Next week. You're looking forward to that.
Oh, yippee.
Yippee. So this is your last episode.
No, we've got one more next week.
One more next week.
Yes.
And then you're taking a couple of weeks off.
Right. We'll come back around the, I think it's the 17th of January.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
That's exactly right.
Very good. Okay. So today, what are we talking about?
Today, something, you get this question every year at this time, so do I. I want to buy a telescope, or I want to have somebody on my holiday list that wants to get started in astronomy. What should I get them? What's the best telescope to buy? Now, part of the reason, Kent, that I decided to do this episode, I'm on a lot of public astronomy enthusiast forums on social media. I'm on a lot of them. I help and mod a couple of them. And we get this question all the time, and we see this pop up, what should I get? And you see people recommending rigs that run $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 computerized.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I just want to scream.
Yeah.
No. So today we're going to help you avoid what Kent and I fondly call hobby killers. Telescopes that are too small, too rickety, too wobbly, or too big, too expensive, too complex for the first-time user. Now, this is not to say that you've got somebody really brilliant in your family who couldn't start out with a big, expensive, computerized Equatorial mount and they could figure it out. I'm sure there's those folks out there.
And there are.
And there are. And I'm also not saying that there are folks out there who are on a really squeaky tight budget who need something very small and very inexpensive, and that it's bad to do that. I'm not saying either of those things at all. I'm just giving you and the folks out there the recommendation for the best ways to get started in the hobby and stay in the hobby.
Right.
We want not just to get people to buy a telescope, we want to set hearts afire for astronomy. We want people to be enthusiastic for years to come. And so we're going to help folks with that.
Well, my biggest piece of advice that I can give somebody is to find an astronomy club near you.
Absolutely true.
If you can find an astronomy club, you're going to find somebody who's going to help you through the process.
Yes.
Imagine if you tried to figure out how to teach yourself, Dr. D, how to play the guitar. If you've never played guitar before,
and I have
think about that. If you've never played guitar before,
No.
how hard it would be to figure out on your own how to play guitar. Even with social media out there, it may be a challenge, whereas if you have a teacher can help you and speed up.
it's so much different.
Right. And I had a friend, he's called, not a friend, a customer. Friday we were talking, and I said, you know, he's talked to me about telescopes for the last few months, and I said, you know, you need to find an astronomy club.
Yes.
And I said, let me search for you. And he lives on Long Island, and I typed in astronomy clubs on Long Island, and there's the Long Island Astronomy Club. And I said, and they meet at 123 whatever street.
Right.
And he was quiet for a few seconds. He went, that's like 4 miles from my house. And I'm like, absolutely, you need to go to the next meeting, which here's the date. And he said, I'm going, because he realized the importance. Now, the problem is a lot of people don't have
That's true.
that. What's your recommendation at that point?
Well, if you don't have an astronomy club, then we're going to give you recommendations for some places to start. The other thing is you need a friend to help you, and that's why I wrote the book Star Mentor.
Exactly.
And Star Mentor is available through Amazon, and your local bookseller probably has it for you, but Amazon.com has it. It's in the carousel for the Explore store. And friends, I've taught beginners astronomy for more than 45 years.
He started when he was 8.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I went and took all my experiences teaching astronomers. How do you learn about the sky? How do you find constellations? How do you choose a telescope? How do you find constellations? How do you find things? How do you know what you're looking at? How do you know what the good stuff to look at is winter, summer, spring, and fall? And so,
Yes.
Yeah, Mike Wiesner says, howdy from Arizona.
Mike Wiesner says, howdy from Arizona. Mike Wiesner.
Mike is a good pal.
He is. He's a good guy. He runs the Cassiopeia Observatory.
He does?
If you Google that, use your favorite Bing engine, however you search the internet, search for Cassiopeia Observatory.
And
Mike's shtick is using his smartphone to take astrophotography. I don't call it shtick. That's his skill and his focus.
That's his
and
skill set.
passion. And he uses a smartphone to take pictures of some really
stunning photographs.
what most people think of is you can't do it with a smartphone. He does it.
It's just
Paul, what else you
stunning.
got over there?
It's Steve Hand says you can't get a telescope, none out there.
Say it again.
You can't get a telescope?
Yeah, there's none out there.
Oh, from Explore Scientific, there's telescopes out there.
Sure, I was going to say. I was
know.
checking out the website, and there are telescopes on the Explore Scientific USA website.
Now, Steve's right. A couple of years ago,
During the COVID, it was
the
terrible.
Christmas 2019, or was it 2020? 2019?
2019 and 2020 both.
We sold out of every telescope.
Everything.
It was bare in the inventory we had.
It was scary, but
and those levels have recovered.
they have. And there may be wait times for telescopes, but they're a lot more reasonable now
Yes,
than they were a
yes.
year or two ago.
For sure. All right, so we're talking about how you know where you're going in the sky.
Right.
If I asked you to drive to Miami, Florida, and you didn't know where Miami, Florida was, what would you do?
Oh, GPS,
Or
Google Maps.
or get a map.
Yeah,
right? You
or
get a
paper map.
So
I'm old enough. We did paper maps back in the
yeah,
day.
I still use paper
AAA
maps.
auto maps with flip the pages as you drive down the road.
Yep, still got them. So we also make a planisphere. Yes, you can get an app on your phone, but we make a planisphere, which is a road map of the sky.
The actual planisphere, folks, is nice. It's handy. This is plastic, so it's very durable. It's not going to fall apart if you drop it in the damp grass out at night. This will last you for years. But
So
we've got
this is the Wiltarian double-sided multi-latitude
Right.
planisphere. So it has the northern half of the sky on one
Right.
side and the southern half on the other side.
Correct.
The nice part about that is, Daniel, if it was just all the sky on this small planisphere, everything would be so small.
So tiny,
You'd have to
yeah.
have a magnifying glass to
you
find
would,
anything.
or have a great
Or
great
have a
big model.
big one that's just like this one, which is a demo model.
Yes.
Okay, we don't sell this. We made this for exactly showing people how to use a planisphere. I'll be your Vanna. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, all right. So now, there's basically the way this works, folks, there's a star map up here, and you'll notice that this ring rotates, and this is what we call the time ring, and the outside ring is the date ring. What you do is you line up your time of night with your day. So over here is December 6th, and if we come over here and line up 9 p.m.,
Oh, you're going to stay up late tonight, are you?
well, yeah.
The sun goes down early. You can be out there
Yes,
at
it does. You could
6:30
be
or
out there at
7.
6 o'clock.
Right.
But basically, when you set this up for the time, this tells you what's in the sky and where. You see north here, west here, east here. If you want to look in the northern sky, you hold it up and look like so. If you're going to look in the eastern sky, you're going to rotate it so east is down
And
at the
face
bottom.
east. Yeah.
Or you face east and hold west at the bottom. And if you want to look at the south, then you flip the map over. There's the front side, here's the back side. This kind of a map, friends, will show you where constellations are, where the Milky Way is, how to find planets, and it has various things. If you're like, oh, I'm looking for the double cluster that's in the constellation Cassiopeia, this will help you find Cassiopeia, and there it is right there. So if I'm out looking north, it's up in the northeast, and you can search there and you can find things like this. This is a super, super accessory.
Very inexpensive.
Oh, yes.
If the electricity goes out or the battery dies in your phone, you're still up and running.
And this doesn't disrupt your night vision.
No. Use a red light flashlight,
Red light flashlight.
which you can find on the Explore Scientific website. They're
Exactly.
very inexpensive. I tell people this. If you've already got a flashlight, you already have a high-tech, astronomical tool. All you need to go is to your favorite big box store and buy a bag of red balloons, and you can stretch it over it, and now you have
A red
light flashlight.
Yes.
You can buy one from us, inexpensive, and get it shipped. But everybody wants to hold their phones up and use their phones.
Oh, no.
You said, why do you say, oh, no?
Well, phones put out mostly blue light, Kent, and that damages your night vision. So when you try to look at the sky, you'll lose a lot of those.
You look at this bright phone,
Right.
and then you got to look at the sky, and your
can't see
pupils are
anything.
real small. And the whole gift of the Mark 1R and the Mark 1L eyeball is they're wonderful tools at night. Your pupils get big like a big owl, and you can see in the dark astoundingly.
Your eyes actually produce chemicals in the dark that make you more sensitive
But
to
it
light.
takes
Takes about,
15, 20, 30, really 45
you
minutes.
start to get advantages after about 5 to 7 minutes. And it continues to get better.
Right, but
for
every
the
time
first
you see
half.
white light.
Every time you flash a smartphone in your face, you're back to zero.
Right. But use your smartphone. Go out and download lots of different planetarium programs.
Sure.
Hold that thing up and start finding the constellations, because the constellation is the key. I'm getting ready to sneeze, so why don't you take over real quick?
Stellarium.org is one of my favorite planetarium apps. It's free, and you can download it to a tablet. I believe it costs a couple dollars to download it on your phone, but it has a night mode where you can change it, and it only puts out in red light.
Right.
So it's a lovely app, and I've used it to teach astronomy for years. It's free, and it's one of these open source things where people in the community are always enhancing it,
Adding things. A
and
comet gets discovered, boom, there it goes.
it's really stunningly easy to use and fun.
All right. Let's talk about some telescopes. Now we got the basics of planisphere, red lights, figuring out what's in the sky.
Right.
Let's talk about telescopes. So you want to talk about which
let's
one
start
first?
with something that's not a telescope.
Oh, no, they are telescopes.
They are telescopes.
What is this?
This is an 8x42 binocular. Now, this particular model is made by Alpen, and we're not. I want to say thank you to the Explore store, because you guys have loaned all the equipment we're going to be looking at here, but we're using them as types rather than specific model examples. This is an 8x42 millimeter, which means it multiplies 8 times magnification, and it has a 42 millimeter eyepiece out front. I
Dr.
have a
Barth?
question.
Paul?
David, Mariana, Eleanor.
I know David. Yeah.
I guess I'm
There he is.
butchering that.
Hi from
This is
Brazil.
Hi from Brazil. It's 1900.
Well, welcome, my friend. We're glad you're joining us today.
It's cool we have a global audience.
It's cool.
always amazes me how many people we can touch.
My 8x42, Kent, these are my favorite grab-and-go binoculars. If I have some much larger binoculars, which you know.
Yes.
But these are so nice. And if you've got somebody who's interested in starting astronomy and you're not sure if they're going to stay with it, an 8x42 binocular is just as handy at the ball game and out camping and hunting and hiking and bird watching. It's light, it's comfortable, it's not difficult to take along. It weighs only a few ounces, and it's not very big. Something like this is prime optics for all sorts of adventure sports. And sporting activities, take them to the stadium. These are great. These will bring you right into the action, but at night, this will let you see stars down to magnitude 9, which means you can see nebulae, you can see a few of the brighter galaxies, you can find double stars, you can look at the planets, you can see the moons of Jupiter, you can see so many things with
Jupiter
these.
and Saturn is starting to get off in the western sky.
Saturn is, well, you have to
still
look at it
see
early in the night.
Or
Yeah.
as soon as the sun goes down, you can see
Right.
Saturn. But after the sun goes down, if you look south about right there,
Jupiter.
you're going to see Jupiter up there, big and bright.
And Mars is at
And
opposition,
Mars-
so Mars is rising in the
Mars
east
is-
right as the
yep,
sun goes
yep.
down.
So you're up till 9 o'clock.
Oh,
Mars
yeah.
gets up. So with these binoculars, are you going to be able to see the rings of Jupiter?
Rings around Saturn,
Oh, I said rings of I said rings of Jupiter, rings of Saturn.
you'll be able to see Saturn isn't round like a disc.
Right.
Resolving the rings, no. It's
Right.
not enough magnification. These, you'd be amazed at how much you can see star clusters, double stars, nebula, hundreds and hundreds of star targets. Planets require high magnification. These are great for the moon because it's so big and so close, but other planetary targets, this is not your
Jupiter,
instrument.
you should be able to see
You can
banding.
see the moons.
You can see the moons for sure.
Absolutely.
On a good clear night with good steady atmosphere,
Right.
you should be able to detect some
And you
banding.
want to tuck your arms in here so that essentially, friends, you can see this is acting like a triangle, and it's supporting, and my elbows are against my rib cage, and it helps me be very, very stable.
Now, I have another trick. You have baseball cap.
Yes.
And you can demonstrate with the cap. I almost poked you in the nose. You can demonstrate with the cap you have on. Reach up and grab it just like that.
There you go.
And now
see how I'm doing here.
you can see
There's essentially the headband wrapping around my head is the support.
And without glasses. See, I don't use I'll do it this way. I'll put these all the way up against my forehead right here,
right.
in my eye socket, and then clamp down just like you
on
did
on the bill of the ball
on
cap.
the bill of the ball cap. And now I've locked everything to my head.
You have.
And the binoculars are steady.
And of course,
that makes you see more.
if you have a lawn chair that leans back, perfect. Right?
For sure.
Perfect.
So, and we're not talking about price here.
No.
Because, an inexpensive pair of binoculars is a good way to get started.
Right.
$50, $75 is going to get you a really nice pair of 8x42.
Yes.
Or maybe, are these 10x50s?
I think these are 7x50s.
These are 7x50s. There you go.
This is a lovely pair of 7x50s. This is kind of the 7 and 10x50s are kind of the standard introductory astronomy binocular. 50 millimeter aperture, which means you're getting a lot of light. A lot of small telescopes start out 50 millimeter aperture, and you can see going from 42 to 50, you almost double the light gathering
It's amazing
area.
how that math works.
It is, because it's area and it's the square of the radius. And then you've got a nice pair of eyepieces, and this particular pair, the eyepieces focus individually. Most binoculars have a center focus, and then it allows you to adjust your right and left side.
Like this pair.
This pair has a nice little ring right here.
Focuses both of them, but I tell people, cover this up.
Right.
And if you can, and focus with your left eye, and then cover the left eye up and fine focus with what's called the diopter ring. Right. Here. You can turn that diopter ring and get it in focus. So now,
both your eyes are not the same.
Right, that's correct.
And so this lets the binocular adjust so that both eyes are in focus all the time. And then you can use your primary center focus.
It makes viewing so much more pleasurable.
Oh, so much more.
You're longer.
Less eye strain.
You have less eye strain.
That's right.
Your brain is not working hard to try and force your one eye to get in focus.
That's right.
And so less eye strain. Your eyes are more relaxed. Your brain is more relaxed. That means you're more relaxed. The more relaxed you are, the more you're going to see.
The more you're going to see. Friends, we don't recommend going above 10 magnification on a binocular. Because when you do, you're going to need a tripod.
Yeah.
And then you've made it bigger and more cumbersome and more equipment and more expense.
Heavier.
And most definitely, don't look at the sun.
Okay.
Yes.
Don't look at the sun.
Let us just get that over with. Never, ever, friends, point optics at the sun unless you have a specialized solar filter.
And we're not talking about that today.
No.
So we're not. We might mention it.
We might mention it, but
look, your Mark 1 and Mark 1R and Mark 1L are optical devices. Don't point them at the sun.
With
Don't
a binocular or telescope,
or just look.
Permanent damage in a fraction of a second.
Well, it's always a good thing, especially when you're talking to beginners, which is the focus of our show today.
We get going on the technical, and you
we
pointed
do.
out a really important thing.
We do.
Okay, so
let's talk about our. Here we go. This is a telescope that I reviewed with Scott on the Amazon Live program just a little bit ago. And I do have my phone. And friends, the way this works is it has, and my phone is a little big. I have one of the jumbo models.
Okay.
But this is designed, it has a little clip here, and you snap your...
Oh, there it goes.
It does. Oh, okay.
You put your phone in there.
I am now officially impressed. Once you put this in, this is a Bluetooth accessory, and this connects to your phone, and it now connects to your GPS. Wherever you point your telescope, it shows you on your phone exactly what constellation and things you're looking at. Now, this will not get you down to the point of let's identify a double star in Scorpio. It's not that accurate, but it will help you find the right constellation, the right area of the sky.
It'll tell you you're pointing in the neighborhood.
Correct.
Right.
And from there, you can move. Now, the nice thing about this, and here's a couple of things that we like to point out for any small telescope. This has extruded aluminum legs, okay? There are some that come with aluminum, with wooden legs, some that come with plastic. I don't really recommend either of them. These metal legs are sturdy, robust. They're not affected by moisture or humidity, and they won't corrode. They're going to last you forever. This raises a telescope to an adult height, but you can also lower this down. If you're using a camp stool, it's very comfortable to lower this down and use this at camp stool height. You've got a single knob here for moving in what we call azimuth, what photographers call pan, and what we call altitude, which
up and down.
Yeah, that's not pan. That is pan and tilt if you're a photographer, altitude and azimuth if you're an astronomer. But this lets you dial in, and you can control how tight and how snug this is. So you can have a very nice mount that moves easily and stays where you put it.
So what's the telescope, Daniel?
This is a 70 millimeter by 700.
So 70 means
the size of,
just like the binoculars we're talking about.
Size of the aperture.
Right.
So 70 millimeter, substantially larger than this 42 millimeter pair of binoculars here, friends.
Or even the 50 millimeter.
Exactly.
Again, close to twice the light.
Close to twice the light, both
times. And what does more light mean?
More light means you can see more objects because you can see things that are fainter and farther away. A greater diameter means more resolution. You can actually see finer detail. People think resolution, seeing fine detail, is down to magnification. It's not true. It's mathematically related to aperture. And
which is related to somewhat to not focal length and magnification.
Right.
We're not. The more light you get,
the more light you get, the better off you are.
Right.
And I'm not going to go way down that rabbit hole today. Happy to do that sometime for you.
That's math for astronomers.
Well, if y'all would like to see it on How Do You Know, I'm happy to dive in one day.
Or buy his book.
That's right.
Buy his book, and you'll get all sorts. You have a mentor.
You do.
You. That's why it's called
Star Mentor. And anyone, of course, can email me at astronomyforeducators, all one word, astronomyforeducators@gmail.com. I answer every query I get.
Well, your staff does that.
No, I do that.
He doesn't have a staff.
I do not.
He does have a staff.
I have an office.
His assistant.
And I have friends.
His assistant's name is Daniel Barth.
That's right. But I answer every query, friends, so don't hesitate to shoot me an email.
And I'll tell you this. He does it in easy to explain and understand terms. He doesn't try and crack your skull open and pour in high math.
No.
This is really fundamental, easy concepts to learn.
I've spent almost half a century teaching beginners.
Yeah.
You know, high school kids, college kids, even middle and elementary school kids. And my expertise, such as it is making things understandable for the average person who comes up and say, is that a telescope? Can you tell me more? What are we looking at? How do I know? The whole premise of this program starts from telling beginners who ask, how do you know? What can you tell me? Where do I go next?
So Daniel teaches the teachers
how to teach. I train teachers who teach astronomy and space science.
Right.
That's what I do now.
Okay, so what this telescope's simple to use.
Right. Very simple.
It'll come with a couple of eyepieces, a 26 millimeter Plossl, and a probably 9.7.
A Barlow, which is a doubler. Right. Your focus knob is simple.
Hang on, before we'll talk about the Barlow. People want instant high power magnification.
That's not the way to go.
That's the opposite. You turned that a little bit there loose, Daniel.
I guess so.
There we go. So I tightened it down.
Thank you.
If that happens, just tighten down the pin tilt, right?
Don't blame Dr. Barth.
To have massive magnification.
Yes.
That's how, after you learn how to use the telescope, you start working your way up. I'm going to tell you right now, and I know Dr. D will agree, always start with the biggest number eyepiece you have.
Which is the lowest power.
Which is the lowest magnification, which seems counterintuitive, right. But that low power makes it easier to find things in the eyepiece and keep them.
This is about 27 power, but you take a look at the 8 power binoculars we were looking at. That means this is on the order of 3 times more powerful than the binocular. And you start with the low power, and then you gradually increase the magnification. Your magnification is often limited by the sky. But one thing I want to point out, Kent, people's like, oh, that's so small. Well, yes, but tremendous discoveries have been made with telescopes this size and smaller.
This company was founded by a man whose first telescope
was considerably smaller.
Was a 50
millimeter
Kmart telescope.
Yes.
That the day I looked up, it would be like $180 telescope today to look at. And it's like, dude, that telescope's inexpensive today.
Yes.
But when his parents bought it for him when Scott Roberts was 10 years old, it was a significant investment.
I started out with a 60 millimeter telescope, which is in this class.
Yeah.
Friends, this weighs 5-6 pounds.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's very light. It's very easy to use. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. I'm sorry. I'm sitting behind it here, and I'm kind of left-handed. But this telescope.
What do you mean you're kind of left-handed? Are you left-handed?
I'm working on the wrong side of the telescope, so yes for right now.
Yes.
So right now, basically, any 8-year-old child could pick this up and take it outside.
And the beauty of this telescope is
it's so easy to use.
You can hook and connect to the Bluetooth, and the app tells you where you're looking at, and it can get you really into the location where the objects you're looking for are, right?
Yes, and it has a little finder crosshair that you can use if you don't have a phone.
Right
here. Little finder crosshair right here. And a telescope like this, friends, the reason I love to recommend these, because glass optics, they're really so nice, so much better than the stuff we had 40 years ago. But they're glass optics, they're rigid, they're rugged, they're reliable, and they are dead simple to use. One of the 2 worst things you can do is you can give somebody something that's too wobbly, it falls over, and second, you can give somebody something that's too complex. This is hard, I don't like it now. And this answers both of those, and it's relatively inexpensive. This comes with lots of accessories. You can look it up on the Explore website. But I'll move this aside. Let's bring...
You bring that one over. I'll move this one aside.
Okay.
Since I'm on the left.
Here's our next system.
Sorry about getting the cover out of the way. So
that's all right.
Step on it and break it.
And friends, this is a Newtonian.
Left a little bit. Come left a little bit.
Okay. About there?
Go back a touch. A little bit.
How's that?
That works for me.
Okay. This is a Newtonian telescope, friends. Now, the way this one works, this one has not a lens in the front, it has a mirror in the bottom. What's the difference? Well, and I'll see if I can point this at the camera. There we go. I think you can get a flash of the mirror down the bottom there. Anyway, what the mirror does is the mirror does the same thing the lens does. It gathers light and focuses it for you. The thing is, with a mirror, you can get a lot larger telescope for a lot less money. This is a, what is this, a 130?
114.
114?
114.
114, so that makes it about a 4-inch, 4 1/4, somewhere in there. To get a 4 1/4-inch refractor is quite pricey. But, a short Newtonian. The other thing is, this Newtonian, very lightweight, very easy to move around, and again, 5 or 6 pounds, very acceptable for a youngster. And this has a carbon fiber-like wrap. It looks gorgeous, and it has the smartphone,
the Star app,
app on it, and a nice tripod with a compass. It comes with a couple of eyepieces and a Barlow, and actually a smartphone adapter, so you can put your phone.
All of these telescopes come with a smartphone adapter. So I want to give a shout out. We just had a hey everyone from Cynthia Nagapan. Good to talk to you. Thanks for giving us a shout
today.
out.
So if you've got someone who's interested in seeing more of the deep sky, nebulas, galaxies, star clusters, these kind of short Newtonians excel at low magnification, wide angle, bright, beautiful views. This is certainly fine for looking at the moon. If you're really interested in planets, I would recommend a different model. But if you want to look at hundreds and hundreds of targets beyond our solar system. Nebula, galaxies, star clusters, double stars. This is a lovely instrument. Again, very lightweight, very easy to use, simple to focus, simple to adjust the height. Cast aluminum tripod. It's rugged, it's sturdy. Beautiful for a beginner because you've got one control wand here to move it, and you've got the star app. You've also got the little crosshatch finder here to help you if you don't have a smartphone handy. Again, a beautiful telescope. And what have we done here? We've moved up in aperture. We've made a bigger aperture telescope, and we've also shortened the focal length, which means we're seeing wide, bright, beautiful views of distant objects that are normally too faint for the human eye.
So there's a mirror back down here in the bottom, so wouldn't that reflect the light just out the tube back where it came from?
There's again a small mirror right in the front. We can turn this. I'm not sure if we can see this, but there's a little secondary mirror cell, and it holds a diagonal mirror. The light comes up, reflects off, goes up into your eye.
Right. So that mirror is right down in there in the middle.
Right. It's right down there. There's two mirrors in this one. And again, a Newtonian style telescope, a brilliant design.
By Sir Isaac Newton.
That's right.
Okay. Stage reset. Now, we've moved up in class just a little bit more here.
There we go. Now, what we have here, friends, this is a first light refractor.
102 millimeter.
102 millimeters, so this is almost exactly a 4-inch aperture telescope.
640 millimeter focal length.
About 600. So this is a moderate focal length, relatively large aperture refractor.
You guys don't speak Portuguese, do you?
Facebook, Emerson.
Oh, it says, good evening from Brazil.
Yes, it does.
And thank you, Emerson Souza.
Very
and
good.
I hope I'm doing your name correctly, my friend. We thank you for joining us. And I've now exhausted my Portuguese.
Portuguese and Italian and Spanish. If you look, and they're similar words.
Correct.
They're all very Latin-based languages.
Correct.
So if you know a little Spanish, you can generally work your way through. It was Bona Noche. It's gone now, but yeah. It's Niche at night, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so this type of refractor, this is a longer focal length instrument.
Absolutely, squirrel.
Than the Newtonian we just saw. This will let you get more magnification. If you love planets and the moon, this instrument will give you excellent, superb lunar and planetary views. Again, this is an extremely simple altitude azimuth, which basically means tilt and swivel, basically point and shoot. And this, I believe, comes with a red dot.
Yep, I'm looking.
A red dot finder.
I'll show you one. We've got one on this telescope.
There we go. This comes with a red dot finder. You look through, you put the red dot on the moon or on Saturn or on the constellation you want to see. There it sits. There it is. And the red dot finder is battery operated, but if you remember to turn them off, they last for months and months and months and months. Yes.
Years. Yeah.
Yes.
You really need to replace the battery every year or two because
I generally do.
If you turn it off, it will last so long that it corrodes.
One of the things I do in the spring when it finally gets warm enough again and I go out, I replace all my batteries for the spring and summer.
Because you can ruin gear if you're not careful. So there's a little skill here.
There is a little bit more skill.
It's 4:36, so we got to move along.
Right.
Okay.
But again, friends, this is very simple.
Talk about aligning these.
Okay. What you want to do to align these, you go out during the daytime. You go out during the daytime, and through the eyepiece, you point at a telephone pole, tree, corner of a building. That's at least a quarter mile away. Okay, minimum.
Farther the better.
Farther the better.
10 miles is better than.
I think you can do a great job if you find something a mile away.
Yeah.
Point at something you're sure of, like the corner of a building or the top of a telephone pole. You center it in the eyepiece here, and then you adjust. It's got
little knobs.
Little knobs.
Up and down right here.
And left and right over there. And you adjust it so the red dot is on the same top of the building, tree, telephone pole.
And what I tell people is don't just adjust it and go down the road. Be sure and look in here again.
Right.
Because you're apt to move the telescope a little bit, and now it's not aligned right. So you got to move it back to where it was and get it centered.
Make sure it's lined up. So much easier to do it during the day than at night.
I like in the evening and morning. You know, right at dusk.
Sure.
Light. It's dark enough where you can see that red dot in there.
Correct.
Now this is a red dot. It doesn't shine a laser up in the sky.
No, it's not a laser sight.
It's just a little red dot.
You just look through and see a red dot.
Right. That's correct. And to do it, you're not up here like this. All right. You're not doing this. And it's designed to use with both eyes open, although you can close one eye and do it as well. I'm left eye dominant, so to do this I'd have to get down here, and now I can't, the telescope's in the way, so I close my left eye.
There you go. But this is a lovely machine. Again, very simple to point at your target, very stable, stays pointed where you point it. Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one.
You want to set that one up over there?
Sure.
And I'll pull this one in. We did not rehearse moving these scopes.
We did not. We're doing great.
Yeah.
We're doing great. All right, friends. What if you have somebody on your holiday list who says, but I want to study the moon. I want to see detail on the surface of Jupiter. Mars is at opposition this year. I want to have a chance to see the polar caps. I want to see the rings around Saturn. I want to see the cloud bands on Jupiter. Something that requires more magnification requires a greater focal length. The nice thing about this Maksutov style telescope, Kent, is that this takes a very long, what is this, about a 1400 millimeter focal length?
19.
19. So this is almost 2 meters. I am not 2 meters tall. This is like having a telescope that's 6.5 foot long, but it's shrunk down into about a 14-inch.
Daniel, that's got to be wrong. This thing is so small, and that one's bigger. It's much longer. How is this?
What we've got some lovely magic. We have a very extremely curved lens up front. We have a second mirror which is curved in the back, and then a third mirror that's curved in the front. That's
right there in the middle.
Right there in the middle, and the three of them work together to take that long focal length and shrink it.
So now, focal length is an important function of magnification. It's half of the math, right?
Correct.
Okay.
If you take the same eyepiece and put it on a 1,000 and a 2,000 millimeter focal length scope, the 2,000 will give you twice the magnification.
Or if you go from a 26 millimeter eyepiece to, say, a 13 millimeter eyepiece with the same telescope,
right,
you've done the same thing. You've doubled the magnification, right?
And we said this very eyepiece, the 26 millimeters, that on the first scope was about 27 power. On this, it's more than 80 power.
Right, which means it's magnified by a factor of approximately 80 in round numbers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is here, for lunar and planetary work, this is terrific because a lot of magnification, but with a lot of magnification, you very much narrow your field of view. That makes this, it takes a little more skill and practice to point accurately, and it means that any small bump will change the way you're seeing things quite a lot. So you have to have a care that you are using this correctly. But if you're interested in looking at the moon, getting down, not just seeing craters, but I want to see where the rock has avalanched into the core of a crater. I want to see the ripples in the lava field over a lunar maria. I want to see rays of material that have been blasted out. I want to see the rubble that's blasted out of a crater. When you want the fine detail, this thing, Kent, will show you a dust storm moving across the surface of Mars.
Absolutely. So here's the deal. It comes with a red dot finder just like the other one.
It does.
We grab them out of the showroom. The problem with the telescopes in the showroom is things get taken off and moved around and shown to people and they don't get put back on. So when we just go get them out of the showroom, walk in here and go, oh, this one doesn't have a finder scope, and we can't show it to you. Same process that we talked about.
Whether you're on the Explore website or any other manufacturer, make sure you look and see, gee, what accessories come with it.
Right. Show them how this focuses.
It does. It's got a lovely little focuser here.
This is different than the other telescopes.
Much different, because with the other telescopes, you're actually seeing the eyepiece move. Here you do not, because what's moving is the internal mirror.
Right.
And this has, if you want to do birding and get up close and personal with the little woodland creatures in your area, this is a marvelous machine.
Right.
It's a marvelous machine. And it has tremendous resolution. This is, again, a larger telescope. This is a 127 millimeter aperture.
5 inches.
5 inches.
5-inch aperture.
5-inch aperture, which this is equivalent to a 5-inch by 2 meter refractor, but it's so compact and easy to take with you. And again, this is less than 10 pounds.
Yeah, I'd say 8 pounds. Yeah.
About 8 pounds. So anyone.
More robust tripod.
You can keep this. It's a beautiful piece of furniture. You can keep this in your living room, take it outside, and if you've got clear skies for 20 minutes, bring it back in. You have virtually no setup and takedown time. All of these we've looked at so far, Kent, virtually no setup and takedown time. Take them out, observe for a few minutes. I'm tired, I'm done, I'm bored, I'm sleepy. Back it goes, you put it away, and you're done for the night.
Now, you said leave it out. So the issue is, if
this
you
in
leave
your
a
living room?
telescope out in your living room,
everybody's going to ask you about it.
Oh, you have a telescope? Can we go see something?
Can we go see something? Can you show me the moon?
Let's go look at the moon
A telescope
tonight.
is a
It's
party in a
clear.
box.
A party in a box.
You set this up on your front lawn. You will literally, unless you live somewhere way out in the country, if you live in town and you set this up on your front lawn and you're looking at the moon, you will literally have people pulling their cars over as they drive down the street. Is that a telescope? What are you looking at? Is it the moon? Can I have a go? And that's part of what my book, Star Mentor, is about.
Once you learn it, how to find the moon and Jupiter and Saturn,
right?
If you go down to the city square and they're playing music on the square, or there's a festival,
your kid's school,
you will have crowds come.
Absolutely.
And they just look at the telescope and they just make a beeline for you.
Absolutely.
Go to your kid's school if it's a PTA night.
Absolutely.
Or a parent-teacher conference night. Go set up out front of the school. I did this a couple of weeks ago. Had more than 250 to 300 people, and there was only 450 people went to it. The line was incredible.
Yes.
And
I did the same on Halloween. A local church that I'm not a member there, but they had on their sign they were doing a trunk or treat event, safe Halloween event for kids, and so I took a pair of big binocular telescope down, set it up. I had a line. The pastor came over. Oh, can we ask what you're doing? You're drawing a crowd here.
Give me my people back.
Well, kind of. Let my people go.
So you were on Halloween. You have a little stick you pull with the teenagers.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yes.
Halloween. I've done this more than 20 years. I'd set a telescope up in my front yard, look at the moon, Jupiter, Saturn, whatever's up. I would put a bowl of candy under the telescope. Little kids would come up. Oh, is that a telescope? Yes, if you're brave enough to look at the moon, you can have a piece of candy. And the kids, we'd had a little step stool, the kids would get up. Wow, have a piece of candy, you're a brave astronomer now. Then the teenagers would come up with almost no costume. I'm wearing a t-shirt, this is my costume. Is that a telescope? Can I have a go? Sure, put a piece of candy in the bowl. I have one bowl of candy, lasts me all Halloween night, most years.
Yeah, awesome.
It made great. Okay.
All right, so let's spin out.
What if you got someone who wants to go big? I want a real awesome telescope. I want to be able to track. I want to be able to do things. I want to be able to do some photography. I want to be able to get started in all those things. What we are jumping up to here, friends, is an equatorial mount. Now, the big difference, everything else we've shown you tonight, tilt and swivel. It's just point and look. This is not that way. This is designed so that this axis points toward the celestial North Pole. The North Star is close enough.
Right.
Once you get it pointed at the North Star, then when you go ahead and loosen this knob, now
turns in circles.
It turns in circles. Why is that important? Because you go and point at something, and as the Earth rotates, this follows that curved path of an object through the sky. That means...
Probably the first time this one's been off. There you go.
That means, friends, if you're looking at Saturn at 250 power, what's really nice is you've got just one knob, and if you've set it up correctly, one knob will follow Saturn along in its curved path through the sky.
Lubo.
So, Lubo from China says hi.
Hey,
And,
Lubo, how you doing,
thank you for joining
bud?
us, Lubo. And John Kovac gave us a shout out
Hey,
as well.
John, glad
Very
to have
good.
you guys here. So this is what we call, Kent, a tracking telescope.
Right.
Now, if you're looking at high magnification, if you're looking where you want to keep pointed at something for a long time to take a photograph, or you're using video on your smartphone, this is absolutely the way you go. Because you have two controls here with slow motion, it lets you maneuver the telescope very high precision, and this is a great system. Disadvantage: you have to have a bit of astronomy knowledge to get this set up and working the very first time. You need to be able to find the North Star. You need a compass. You need to know what your latitude is so you can adjust the telescope to match your latitude. Once you get it set up, it's good for the entire evening. And once you set the latitude, unless you're going more than 50 or 100 miles, you take this to a friend's house or to a star party at the astronomy club, it's going to work just fine. Right. But it does take a little more knowledge to set up. You do need to balance it so everything stays in balance, but it's quite easy to learn.
It's a skill. It's just like casting a fishing rod.
That's a good analogy. It's something that it looks maybe a little easier than it is, but anybody can learn with an hour's practice.
Yeah. Or with a mentor to help them show you how to do it.
Oh, there you go.
Always easier.
Your astronomy club or the Star Mentor book at your side, and you will be in great shape.
If you're on social media, put out there on your community Facebook page or whatever platform you're on, hey, I've got this telescope for Christmas. Is anybody? I'd love to do astronomy.
You're going to find friends you never knew you had.
I tell this story all the time. We have a forum for one of our high-end telescopes, and a guy was talking. He mentioned he lived in this Miami, Florida, or Coral Gables, or whatever. And another person says, "Well, I live there." And the other guy said, "Well, I live on Johnson Street." He went, "I live on Johnson Street." Then they got offline and started talking. Turns out they'd both been doing astronomy for years and years.
Neighbors on the same street.
5 houses down. 5 houses away. They both had the same system and similar telescopes, but because they always do it in their backyard,
they met.
They knew each other.
But they didn't know about their secret
astronomy
secret astronomy habit.
It's the strangest. I mean, just blown away by that.
I will tell you, Kent, this is one of the type of telescopes that I have taught astronomy with for more than 45 years. The 80 to 100 millimeter refractor, that was between 600 and 900 millimeter focal length. This is one of the basic tools that I have taught beginners with for many decades and recommended for many decades.
So this is a 102 millimeter?
102 millimeter.
From Explore Scientific. It has a 614, it should say right here.
650?
663 millimeter focal length. So sort of similar to that 640.
Yes.
But this has better glass.
Yeah.
Right?
Better
Even though
optics.
they're both 102s.
Better optics.
Better glass. The more money you pay for anything, the better stuff you get with it.
Correct.
It has a much more robust.
Has a much more robust and fine focuser. It'll take both. Here's a lovely example. It will take the American standard 1¼ eyepieces, and because it has an adapter ring, you can also break out the bad boys. This is a 2-inch standard eyepiece. This is lovely for viewing deep, dark sky because it doesn't waste a single photon, doesn't choke off the cone of light at all.
So
now,
real simple. You take the adapter out, you put 2-inch eyepiece in.
There you go.
You want to use an 1¼ eyepiece?
Right.
You put the adapter in.
There you go.
That's easy.
It
also comes, real quick, it also comes with a 10-to-1 fine focus. So you can really, these other ones
single speed focuser.
This is a 10-to-1. So let's spin this around here. Let's do it this way. Just pick the whole thing up.
We have our coarse focuses out here, and you can see how much faster the inner knob rotates. And this is a 10-to-1, and you can see this lets you get the exact precise focus that you want for high magnification work, for lunar exploration if you're using a camera. And with this 2-inch focuser, you can put a DSLR
You can connect the camera you already have, and you can start doing digital astrophotography. Whole nother show, whole nother 100 shows. It's a lot of,
that's not, and I don't recommend very beginners start out with astrophotography. The next thing we're going to bring out here, and this has been my workhorse unit for teaching astronomy for years, and that is the classic 6 to 8 inch Dobsonian telescope. Now this is an 8-inch Dob. Now people look at this and say, my goodness, it's so big. Yes, it is. However, if you think about it,
all the way back? Okay.
It's so big. My God, is that a telescope? It's huge. Friends, the nice thing is, if we take a look at this, this stores in about 2 square feet. This stores in a very small area.
Because you can stand it up?
Correct. You can stand it up. And this, again, is an altitude, azimuth, tilt, and swivel mount.
It's basically a lazy Susan on the bottom.
Basically.
Right.
And it has this curved bow here, which slides on Teflon bearings.
And one thing that's cool, this lazy Susan has 3 ground points of contact, not 4. Why is that?
3, the tripod is stable and less friction.
If you have 4, one of them, if the ground's unstable or curved, one of those is going to be off the ground.
Right,
always,
it's going to wobble.
But with 3, it just
never
sits
wobbles.
nice and easy on the ground, never wobbles.
And
you can see this is real simple to
you can
move.
see the way Kent's doing this, just grabbing the rim and steering it that way. So he can steer, there you go, he can steer this way simply by taking the rim of the telescope, taking hold of it, and tilting and swiveling, and make no mistake.
Simple.
This is a metal tube. And I will tell you, Kent, I use telescopes just like this in 6 and 8 inch size with high school kids who didn't own them.
Right.
I had telescopes of this exact design in service in a classroom for more than 25 years.
Same telescope.
Same telescope. They still worked as well when I retired and left California as they did the day I got them. And so a telescope like this, friends, can be a lifetime telescope. This can show you tens of thousands of targets.
This telescope comes with even a bigger focuser.
Yes.
This is a 2.5-inch diameter focuser.
That's a beefy board.
It's a beefy focuser. It's single speed, but you can buy a 10-to-1 and put on here if you want to.
If you want to.
And it still comes with the same Plössl eyepieces the other telescopes
Correct.
come. One upgrade that people move into fairly quickly is to buy our Explore Scientific waterproof eyepieces. It gets you some better eyepieces, a lot more magnification. Connor Bradley, hi Connor. Connor is from England.
What's the best solution to fix light scattering? On a Newtonian, Connor, one thing you can do, and this takes a little bit of mechanical skill, you can line the inside of your telescope with black velvet.
Right.
And that will eliminate scattering. You can also try putting some black velvet on the spider arms on your telescope. Both of those will go a long way to eliminating scattered light. You can, if you want, you can also try putting a dew shield type hood. You can make that out of cardboard, construction paper, plastic, and paint it black, and that will prevent light from entering.
Right, from a street light or
From
something
a street
like
light
that.
or something like
Right,
that.
right.
But all those things are inexpensive and things you can do by yourself, as long as you're comfortable with kind of taking some components apart and putting them back together.
So, Daniel, we talked in the Newtonian, we showed how there's a secondary here. We didn't talk about, isn't that going to cause problems?
Indeed, it does
having
not.
things on like that?
Indeed,
Really?
it does not.
Why
Even
not?
this great big mirror, you'd think, oh, there's going to be a big hole in my view. There's not.
During the daytime there is.
During the daytime,
Why
there
is that?
It has to do with the amount of light you get and your eye's ability to perceive. At night, these obstructions, for the most part, just disappear.
And your eye
Your eye
at night gets bigger and you see around it.
Correct.
Like I can look in here right now and see it. But
Right.
we're full of bright lights, right?
and your pupil is very small.
And my pupil is very small. At night, your pupil gets big, and the less light pollution I have, the bigger it gets. and it just, you see right around it at night. You don't see it unless you're looking. Sometimes I see it when I'm looking at the bright moon. Jupiter maybe a little bit, or really bright star. But it's just, the benefit is you get this nice big aperture, nice focal length.
Yes.
Magnification and light
Yes.
means you're going to see more detail.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, the views through this are stunning. You're probably going to, if you're looking at the moon, you're probably going to have to get yourself a filter.
Yeah.
Or wear sunglasses.
More
really.
than halfway through.
Yeah.
Oh, a full moon. I love customers say, I'm buying a telescope. Will it be here by the super moon on Wednesday next week? Yes, we'll guarantee it can be there. But I want to tell you, looking at a full moon with a telescope like this makes your eye not feel good. I mean, it doesn't damage your eye, but it's so bright. You're getting so much sunlight gathered up. It's not going to damage your eye.
No.
But you know how,
but you're going to be blinking and seeing purple spots in your vision.
When a camera flash goes off, and you see that spot, same effect when you look at the full moon. And then we sell filters that cut out the light and dim that down so it's more manageable.
The last thing I want to tell people about this, when I have folks contact me and say, we want a really big telescope. Kent, as you know, telescopes can get enormous, heavy, complex, and this is about as big as I recommend to anyone for a starting telescope. Why? Because this weighs in at about 25 pounds. It breaks down into two roughly equal weight pieces of about 12 to 13 pounds apiece, or about 6 kilos. And this is lightweight enough in two pieces that a 12-year-old can easily take it out into the backyard. It's also small enough to store in a corner of a room and not take up a huge amount of space.
Put the dust cover on it.
You can set it up and carry it out to the backyard, set it up in literally 1 to 2 minutes.
That's
and
what's
start
beautiful.
observing.
You can carry, it's a great scope. I used to get home, I have a 4.5 inch. I'd get home, I'd carry it out, set it out in the driveway, and observe for 15 or 20 minutes.
And with a telescope this size, Ken, you can see literally 25 to 50,000 different targets, depending on how dark the sky is.
Show them how easy it is to pick up.
Oh, they saw me carry it in.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but we didn't have the full.
Yeah, it's just two pieces.
Yeah. Now,
1 and 2.
Assembly required for the base.
Yeah, you're going to have to put this one together. If you're seeing it on under the tree on Christmas morning, there's going to be some assembly. And it takes probably about an hour to an hour and a half to put together.
Scott and I did it in 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah,
but we've done it.
You've done it before.
I actually had only done it one other time before. I'd never put one together.
I would
but
say
I understood the process.
Give yourself 1 to 2 hours to put it together.
And the other thing is, if you want to look at something that's coming up, 2 or 3 months from now, don't wait to buy it.
No.
Buy it now. So
learn to use it.
So you learn how to cast the fishing rod.
Absolutely.
Learn how to cast. Learn how to reel in your targets, right?
The other thing I'm asked about a lot of times, and I'm going to disappoint some people, should I buy a computerized go-to telescope? No. For a beginner, absolutely not. And people say, oh, but why? Well, setting up a go-to telescope requires you to know the sky, be able to identify individual stars, to set things up and level them. If it's an equatorial, get it pointed accurately, go through a whole setup process with the computer, move, center, refine, punch, select, next target, try it again. If anybody bumps it at night, oops, sorry, well, you have to redo the whole setup. Mm-hmm. It's computerized, it's electricity, it's batteries, it's wires, it's cables. It's an awful lot of complexity that gets between you and putting the sky in your eye.
Right.
And I just
100% agree.
Not recommend it. For a experienced telescope owner who says, I've had this lovely 8-inch Dob for a couple of years, and now I want to get an even bigger telescope with a go-to computer, hey, y'all go for it. But for a beginner, for a starter scope, absolutely not.
Can some people figure it out the first night? Yeah, there's one guy out of a million, or one guy, say, one person out of a million can do it maybe.
I've had more people tell me, I got this computerized telescope and I can't work it. I think it's broken. Can you help me fix it? Something's wrong. Why can't I use it? I can't even find the moon. Even trying to work it with the computer off, it doesn't work. These telescopes, Kent, are very simply point and shoot.
Millions of people have started their astronomy career with
And stuck
Dobsonian
with it.
telescopes. Now,
Stuck with
we
the
call
hobby.
this a Dobsonian telescope.
Correct.
Technically, this is a Newtonian telescope, just like the one we looked
Right.
at a few minutes ago.
Right.
The Dobsonian part comes into the mount
mount.
base. Talk about why it's called a Dobsonian.
John
mount.
Dobson, who I had met a number of times before his death, was an American astronomer who wanted to build large, inexpensive telescopes. And he started out grinding porthole glass into mirrors, which is crazy fun. And he built these telescopes, and he found out that he could build a simple, inexpensive mount. And he said his inspiration was a Civil War cannon that you might see at the town square in a lot of towns. And he realized, oh, it's basically tilt and swivel, and I can do that with a telescope, and the telescope can slide on some plastic bearings.
This kind of mount had been around before, but he popularized it. He was the person who took it to the masses and really made people aware.
He did.
And he will live on. And he was a monk, by the way.
He was.
He will live on forevermore.
And he gave the design away.
Yeah, exactly.
He basically said, I'm not going to commercialize it. I'm not going to patent it. I'm going to give it away and show anyone who wants how to do it.
Something's happened. I can't set it all the way up. And here's what's happened. We're gonna loosen up these screws a little bit.
Because you're too low.
And the telescope is a little slick. And so I'm going to get these screws loose enough to where we can, and it's a fine line between loose and falling apart, right?
Yes.
There. Now then, let me get a hold of this. There we
There you
go.
go.
Stop right there. This is also one way you can balance the telescope.
Yes.
Right, moving it up and down. Real simple. I'm going to actually tighten these up a little bit more so it doesn't slide.
Yes.
So you get the clamps tight enough, it'll clamp on there and not slide. We had just put it together Thursday last week, I think it was.
I saw your show.
Well, thank you. You were the person who watched.
One
so
of
there we
many.
go.
There
One
we
of
go.
many.
And now you see that.
What's it hitting on?
I'm not sure.
Nothing. It's just not.
Oh, it's reached the limit because
yeah.
it has a stop.
Yes, it has a stop. So there we go.
It has a stop. So it has a maximum altitude and a minimum altitude. And a Dobsonian is not really designed for looking straight overhead.
It's impossible to turn. I've tried it.
Oh,
with
it's
some.
terrible.
In any telescope, looking
straight up at the zenith
in a cone like that
is awful.
Is awful. With an Equatorial, with an
it's a recipe for a sore back.
Yes, I mean, and it's so hard to move it too because it's difficult to move it in the correct direction. So we have come up to our hour.
It is
Let's talk about solar filters just for a second.
All right.
We have one over there.
We have one over here.
Let's talk about them.
Friends, we said never ever point your telescope at the sun without proper equipment. If you're interested in getting started with solar observing, I strongly recommend starting at an astronomy club with someone who has proper equipment and can show you how. But Explore does market a solar filter, and they change the foam inserts here to change the diameter telescope.
You cut it. You literally.
You cut it to fit your telescope. This fits on over the front end of your telescope.
Right here, this end. Here's a little telescope.
Yes.
This filter actually would work on this one because see, that's how it slides on. And look, it's not going to come off. If you get one of these and cut it, you don't want it to go on easily.
No.
Because you're looking at the sun and it comes off easily.
Bad day.
And now you're looking at the sun with unfiltered light. So be cautious with this.
And
but that's how it works.
Guys, you need to make sure you get an actual solar filter. Don't try putting aluminum foil with a pinhole in it. Don't look through a silver potato chip bag. And don't look through a silvery mylar balloon. No. It's your eyes. You don't get a second chance. Use a professionally produced and accredited solar filter from a well-known company.
The solar eclipse of 2017, there were
Thousands.
companies, bunches of companies sold millions of bad
Eclipse
glasses. Buy them from a reputable dealer. I can't say it.
Reputable.
Reputable. There we go.
Correct.
Reputable dealer from a source you know and trust.
Somebody who's been. Don't just go order off of a website. You know, this is the yee-haw.
If they're the cheapest ones,
Do you want to trust your eye to that?
the difference between $1 eclipse glass and a $2.50 eclipse glasses is your vision.
Yes.
Is your vision is what it
Make
comes
sure
down to.
you get a reputable product from a company that's been in business and been doing this a while. Explorer is a good example. There are other reputable companies out there, but just don't go buy something. You're going to trust your eyes to it from a fly-by-night, odd name company somewhere out of who knows where.
Here today.
Gone
tomorrow.
And so are your eyes.
And so your eyes and your money and your $2 you save.
Oh golly.
Yeah.
Don't scrimp on. This is not the place to save a buck.
100%.
This is the place to get the high quality, good quality product from a reputable manufacturer who's been in business for quite some time. They'll be there tomorrow. And yes, there are solar filters and you can use them. But friends, Kent and I and the entire crew here at Explore, we want you to get started in astronomy and stay with it. Pick up a copy of Star Mentor with your telescope, whichever one you buy for Christmas, and get out there, enjoy the sky, and give us a shout out.
Connor's got a question real quick.
What is the strangest object you've seen through a telescope in the night sky and couldn't explain what you saw? Okay, I'll tell you, Connor, one night I saw what appeared to be a comet where no comet should be. It was way out of the plane of the ecliptic, and my students and I watched it and were like, wow, this is crazy. We couldn't explain it, and so we took down coordinates and we were on the internet and we were saying, is anybody else seeing this? We saw this, here's the time, we had enough math, we could tell the altitude and the velocity. And somebody reached out to us from the Air Force and said, please cease and desist. What we saw was a military satellite launch out of Vandenberg Air Force Base. And it was like at 1 a.m, and they didn't necessarily want to publicize the launch.
The thing is, anybody who's out can see it. And those launches are cool because when they do a fuel dump, it creates this huge aurora almost type of beautiful cloud. I've not seen one. Okay, here's my answer. We were up with the Longneckers, right?
Sure.
We were up at their home up in across the state line in Missouri, and it used 20 years ago, it was dark up there. And one of the boys were like, hey, I see a triangle with stars that are moving. And we're like, yeah, sure, Colt, well, sure. It's like, no, seriously. And his brother went, yeah, I see it too. And we go, huh? So we look up and it's like, wow. Binoculars, we didn't put telescope, binoculars. So I'm thinking, okay, what is it? Does it have any mass between it? And you look at it, it was a fairly good sized, I don't know, a degree apart maybe. Looking up there, maybe 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees. And no, there's no structure between them. And so watched them go across the sky, and they sort of looked like they were changing shape. But I started thinking, okay, if it looks like a triangle here, as it moves, it's going to start looking like it's changing shape, and it wasn't. So, of course, this was in 97, 98, early days of the internet, right? So I start doing a quick research, and I come up with what was the Naval Oceanic Systems Survey, or Signal Survey. And it was a NOSS triplets, and it was a constellation of them. And they were designed as they moved over land. They had these trajectories that would spread out over the oceans so they could triangulate radio signals.
Yep, there you go.
And saw a unidentified triangle flying in the sky. But a wee bit of research, actually it took a little bit of research to find it, I found the answer.
There you go.
Weather balloons, back in the 70s, people were seeing things at night, and it was the F-117 Nighthawk.
Yeah. I was going to say the Nighthawk was usually the 3 dots in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That was that wobbly goblin.
Because they only flew them at night. So many of these have easy explanations. Some
Indeed.
of them have hard explanations that you can't ever cover the answer. That doesn't mean they're alien bodies.
No, I believe there's life elsewhere in the universe. I don't believe they fly here to see us.
Right.
The universe, Connor, is so unimaginably huge, and the speed of light limitation, all that stuff. We can have that conversation another time. Go look at some earlier How Do You Know programs.
Absolutely, you've had it.
Absolutely.
Or get one of your books. 'Cause
There you go. But it's just about time to wrap this up. Next
The
week,
Star Mentor.
yes, Star
is up
Mentor.
on the
The show is
screen.
brought to you by Star Mentor. Please pick yourself up a copy if you know an astronomer who's an enthusiast. A great holiday gift for them to give you an idea of what to do next with your telescope. Next week, talking about what's next, we're going to wrap up for 2022 with a show on the number 137. Do you know what I'm talking about?
137.
What no less a physicist than Richard Feynman called the most mysterious number.
I'm not. That's not ringing
No,
a bell.
it's
I'm
called
gonna start do an internet search
it's
and figure
1
it out.
over 137, but the fine structure constant, and it's one of these really bizarre pure numbers that comes up over
All
and
over.
over and
So,
over again. Nobody knows why.
The Fibonacci sequence
Yes.
shows up in pine cones
Yes.
and flower swirls
Yes.
and sunflower seeds.
But this
it's
is
one of those
even
numbers
more
even
mysterious.
amazing than that. Very
Feynman
cool.
said every physicist and astronomer should have the number 137 on their blackboard and think about it a little bit every single day. So we're going to wrap up our How Do You Know program in 2022 next Monday with discussion of the fine structure constant, 137, and all the mysteries there too. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We hope this was a great program for you. You're welcome to email me at astronomyforeducators@gmail.com, and I answer every question that I get. I hope you all have a lovely holiday. Enjoy clear skies and keep looking up. Thank you everybody, and good night.